Sign it, dear, or the wedding's off." She said it with a smile, lipstick perfect, pearls gleaming, voice dipped in honey and arsenic. Lorelei slid the envelope across the white linen tablecloth like it was a dessert menu. I didn't flinch, didn't blink. I just picked it up, peeled it open, and skimmed the pages while the server poured more champagne. The paper was heavy, the kind that whispers money. The kind you frame if you're the type to frame your own importance. "My name is Alice," I said, not looking up. "You know that, of course, but I thought I'd reintroduce myself before I sign away my soul." She gave a tight laugh. "It's just a formality, darling." "Of course," I said. I clicked my pen, my own pen, not the gold one she had placed beside the envelope like a prop, and signed with a flourish. Her eyes narrowed. "You didn't even read it." "I have," I said, folding the papers neatly and sliding them back. "3 weeks ago, when your lawyer emailed it to mine." She blinked, just once. Then the smile returned, a little tighter now, like her face had to work harder to hold it. She reached for the envelope, tucked it into her crocodile clutch, and stood. "I'll keep this safe," she said. "I'm sure you will." She turned to leave, but not before pausing to adjust her scarf, her diamond bracelet catching the light. "You know, Alice, some women would be offended." I sipped my mimosa. "Some women aren't me." She walked off, heels clicking on the marble floor of the country club's terrace like a countdown. I watched her go, then leaned back in my chair and let the sunlight warm my face. My hand still held the pen. Black lacquer. Fine tip. Custom engraved. They had no idea I brought my own pen and my own claws. The first time I met Orlando, he was trying to parallel park a Tesla in front of a bakery in Venice and failing spectacularly. I watched him from a bench, sipping coffee, amused. He was cute, rich boy cute. Expensive watch, confused expression, and a complete lack of spatial awareness. "Need help?" I asked, standing. He looked up, sheepish. "Is it that bad?" "Let's just say the curb is winning." He laughed. That laugh, boyish, a little self-deprecating, was what made me walk over. I directed him into the spot with 2 fingers and a smirk. He offered to buy me a pastry as thanks. I let him. That was 2 years ago. I let him fall in love with me slowly, the way you let a candle burn down. I never lied. I never pretended to be someone I wasn't. I just let him see what he wanted to see. The girl who didn't care about money. The girl who didn't ask questions about the family business. The girl who laughed at his mother's insults and never pushed back. I played the long game, and I played it well. Back at the brunch table, Jolie slid into the chair across from me, sunglasses on, hair in a high ponytail like she was hungover from a party I hadn't been invited to. "She do it?" she asked. I handed her the empty envelope. Signed, sealed, delivered. Jolie pulled out the papers and flipped through them, her red nails tapping each page. "Clause is intact. They didn't spot it." "Of course they didn't!" She looked up. "You know, I've worked with a lot of people who wanted revenge. You're the only one who scares me a little." I smiled. "That's sweet." "You sure you want to go through with this?" I stirred my mimosa with the straw. "She made my father sign a deal that stripped him of everything, then called him a failure at the board meeting. He died 6 months later." Jolie didn't say anything. She didn't need to. "I'm not doing this out of anger," I said. "I'm doing this because no one ever stopped her. Until now." She raised her glass. Too poetic, Justice. We clinked. Later that night, Orlando called me from his hotel room. Mom said you signed the prenup. She's very persuasive, I said. He hesitated. I know it's not ideal, but it's just paperwork. Of course, I said. Just paperwork. He sighed. I love you, Alice. I looked out the window at the city lights. I know, he didn't hear the pause. Or maybe he did, and chose to ignore it. I ended the call and walked over to the mirror. I stared at my reflection for a long time. The dress I wore earlier still hung on my chair. White. Simple. The kind Lorelei would call quaint. I opened my drawer and pulled out the copy of the prenup. The real one. The one with Jolie's clause buried on page 17, under a paragraph about asset protection and voting rights. I ran my fingers over the fine print. They thought they were protecting themselves, but I wasn't marrying into their family. I was infiltrating it, and they'd just handed me the keys. The air in Jolie's office smelled like espresso and ambition. She tossed a folder onto the table between us and said, You're officially terrifying. I flipped it open. Charts, names, shell companies, offshore accounts. I'm officially thorough. She leaned back, sipping her coffee. You've been planning this for how long? Since I was 17. I didn't look up. Since the day we buried my father. Jolie's smirk faded. You never told me exactly what happened. I closed the folder and looked at her. You want the short version? She nodded. My dad built a logistics company from scratch. 12 years of blood and sweat. One day, he got an offer to partner with a larger firm. He thought it was his big break. Turned out, it was a setup. They bled him dry, pulled out at the last minute, left him with debt and lawsuits. Let me guess, she said. The Walshes. Lincoln signed the deal. Lorelei orchestrated it. She even showed up at the bankruptcy hearing. Jesus, she smiled at me, I said, like I was a stray dog sniffing at her heels. Jolie shook her head. So, you went to law school for this? No, I said. I went to survive. Revenge came later. She opened a drawer and pulled out a flash drive. This has the final version of the prenup. Hidden clauses buried under the asset consolidation section. Legal language is airtight. If they trigger it, you gain control of any joint holdings and voting rights tied to marital trust shares. I took it. Perfect. You know this could blow up in your face, right? I smiled. Only if they play nice. 3 weeks later, I sat in a downtown cafe across from a man who hadn't seen me in 8 years. Johnny looked older, not in a bad way, just tired, like someone who'd seen too much and stopped pretending otherwise. He stirred his tea without drinking it. I thought you left all this behind. I did. Until I realized it wasn't done with me. He gave a short laugh. You always had that look. Like you knew something the rest of us didn't. I usually did. He leaned in. Why now? Because the statute of limitations on the Walsh fraud cases expires in 6 months, and because I just got engaged. His eyebrows lifted. To who? Orlando. He blinked. As in... Holy shit! I slid a folder across the table. I need everything you've got. Emails, memos, anything that shows knowledge of asset manipulation or coercion. He glanced at it, then back at me. You planning to go public? Not yet. First I let them hang themselves, then I cut the rope. He exhaled, nodding slowly. You know, I always thought you were the quiet type. I am, I said. quiet doesn't mean harmless. That night, Jolie and I sat on her balcony with a bottle of wine and a view of the city. "You ever think about what happens after?" she asked. "After what?" "After you win. After you burn the house down. What's left?" I stared at the skyline. "Ashes, and maybe a foundation." She poured more wine. "Revenge is expensive." "I'm fine paying in cash or blood." She raised her glass. "To blood, then." We drank. My phone buzzed the next morning, a text from Orlando. "Mom wants us to have dinner at the estate this weekend. She says it's important." I replied, "Can't wait. Tell her I'll bring dessert." I put the phone down and opened my laptop. The Prenup file blinked on the screen. I clicked through to the clause. It looked like legal gibberish, unless you knew what to look for. Trigger conditions. Disparagement of spouse. Asset manipulation. Undue influence. All three were practically family traditions for the Walshes. I clicked print. Dinner at the estate was, as expected, a show. Lorelei greeted me with a kiss on the cheek and a compliment about my shoes that somehow sounded like an insult. "Those are darling," she said. "Very accessible." "Thanks," I said. "They're vintage, from my mother's closet." She blinked. "Oh, how quaint." Orlando hovered like a nervous intern. Trinity sat at the far end of the table, swirling her wine and glaring. "So," Lorelei said, dabbing her lips with a napkin. "Have you thought about what you'll do after the wedding? I assume you won't be working?" "I'll be overseeing some investments," I said. "Oh? With whose money?" "Mine," I said. "And yours, technically." She froze for half a second. Just enough. I smiled. "Joint holdings, remember." She laughed. "Of course! Silly me!" Trinity leaned forward. "You know, Alice, it's funny. You never talk about your family." I met her eyes. "That's because they're dead." The table went silent. Orlando cleared his throat. Maybe we should—" "No, it's fine," I said. "My father died of a heart attack, stress-related, after a business deal went bad. My sister ran off. My mother passed a year later. So, yes, I don't talk about them much." Lorelei sipped her wine. "That's unfortunate." I tilted my head. "Not really. It taught me to survive." She smiled. "We all have our crosses to bear. Some of us just bury them deeper." Back in the car, Orlando reached for my hand. "I'm sorry about dinner." I let him hold it. "It's fine. She's just protective." "I know. She'll come around." I looked out the window. "I'm not waiting for her." He squeezed my hand. "I love you, you know." I nodded. "I know." But love wasn't the point. Justice was. The veil itched. The kind of itch you can't scratch because 100 people are watching and you're supposed to look like a dream. "Smile," the photographer said. I smiled. Orlando stood beside me, grinning like a kid who just won a prize he didn't know was rigged. His hand was damp in mine. I could feel the tremble in his fingers. Nerves or guilt? I couldn't tell. Lorelei adjusted his boutonniere like she was fixing a doll. "Perfect," she said. "Let's keep it elegant, shall we?" "Of course," I said, my voice sugar-sweet. "Elegance is everything." She gave me a glance that could cut glass. I gave her a smile that said, "Try me." The ceremony took place in the garden behind the estate. Orchids, violins, champagne flutes balanced on silver trays, everything curated to scream wealth without whispering effort. I walked down the aisle to a string quartet version of At Last. The irony didn't escape me. Orlando's vows were fine, generic, a little shaky. He mentioned love, growth, and building a future together. He didn't mention loyalty or truth. I kept mine short. I promised to build something unbreakable and to never forget what brought us here. Jolie, seated in the third row, raised an eyebrow. I caught it and bit back a smile. We kissed. Applause, confetti, flashbulbs. And just like that, I was a Walsh. At least, that's what they thought. The reception was a blur of fake laughter and real diamonds. Trinity showed up late, already tipsy, in a dress that screamed, "Look at me." She cornered me near the bar, drink in hand. "You think you've won, don't you?" I took a sip of my champagne. "Won what?" She leaned in, breath heavy with gin. "You'll never be one of us." I leaned closer. "I won't need to be, darling." Her mouth opened, but I walked away before she could speak. Jolie found me near the dance floor, holding a glass of water like it was vodka. "You good?" "Peachy." "You're glowing, like a bride or a Bond villain." "Is there a difference?" She snorted. "You ready?" I nodded. "Midnight?" she asked. 3 a.m., I said. "Let them sleep first." She clinked her glass against mine. To the fall. At 3:04 a.m., I stood barefoot in the hallway of the estate, phone pressed to my ear. Jolie picked up on the second ring. "Say the words. Activate it," I said. "All of it." She didn't ask if I was sure. She knew better. "Done," she said, and hung up. I walked back to the suite, climbed into bed beside Orlando, and closed my eyes. Morning came fast and loud. I was brushing my teeth when I heard the first phone ring, then another, then a third. Trinity's shriek echoing down the hall. I walked into the breakfast room in silk pajamas and bare feet. Lorelei was already there, phone in hand, face pale. She looked up, eyes wild. "Something's wrong." "Oh." "Stock price is dropping. Fast. There's something happening with the board." I poured myself coffee. "That sounds serious." Orlando stumbled in, phone pressed to his ear. "Dad's on the line with legal. Something about a restructuring clause. He says someone triggered it." Lorelei turned to him. "Check the prenup. Now." He froze. "What?" She snapped. "Check it." He fumbled with his phone, pulling up the PDF. His eyes scanned the screen. Slower. Slower. Then they stopped. He looked at me. "Alice, what is this?" I took a sip of coffee. "It's a clause, page 17, subsection D." Lorelei grabbed the phone from him and read it. Her lips moved silently. Then her hand slammed the table. "You sneaky little bitch." I raised an eyebrow. "Language." "You put this in the prenup." I did. "You tricked us." I had legal representation. So did you. If you missed it, that's not my fault. Orlando stepped forward. "Alice, what does this mean?" "It means," I said, setting my cup down, "that as of 3:04 a.m., I have controlling interest in the marital trust shares, which include voting rights on Walsh Enterprises board." Lorelei's face went white. "You can't." "I can," I said. "And I did." Trinity burst in, holding her phone. "The media's calling. Someone leaked documents, internal memos, financial records." I looked at Lorelei. "Looks like someone's been very naughty." She lunged at me, grabbing my wrist. "What the hell did you do?" I leaned in, voice low. "I inherited what was mine." Orlando stood frozen, mouth open, like he couldn't decide whether to be angry or impressed. "Why?" he whispered. I looked at him. "Because your family destroyed mine, and no one ever made them pay." He didn't speak. I walked out of the room, past the stunned silence, past the burning stairs. Behind me, Lorelei screamed my name, but I didn't turn back. I had work to do. The sound of forks clinking on china was the only thing keeping the room from exploding. Breakfast at the estate had never been quiet, but this was different. It was the kind of silence that comes right before a building collapses. Orlando sat across from me, eyes glued to his phone. Trinity was scrolling like her life depended on it. Lorelei hadn't touched her eggs. She just stared at her phone screen, jaw clenched so tight I could hear her grinding her teeth. Then it started. Ping. 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 Everyone's phones lit up at once. Red screens, alerts, news headlines. Walsh Enterprises. Stock plummets after unexpected board power shift. Insider leaks. Shake investor confidence. New trustee named Alice Ward. Trinity dropped her phone. What the hell is happening? Lorelei stood up so fast her chair screeched against the floor. You! She pointed at me like I was a virus she'd just discovered in her bloodstream. What did you do? I calmly buttered my toast. I activated the clause. Orlando looked up. This isn't real. This can't be real. It's very real, I said. The prenup gave me conditional control over trust shares if certain criteria were met. Disparagement, manipulation, coercion. Lorelei's voice cracked. That clause was buried. In plain sight, I said. You signed it. Your lawyer signed it. It's legal. You tricked us. I set my knife down. I protected myself. You assumed I wouldn't. Orlando stood, his voice shaky. You could have told me. I looked at him. Would it have changed anything? He didn't answer. Lorelei stormed to the sideboard, yanked open a drawer, and pulled out a thick binder. She slammed it on the table and started flipping pages. You think this gives you power? She hissed. You don't know the first thing about running a company. I leaned back. I know how to read a balance sheet. I know how to follow a money trail. And I know that your CFO's been hiding losses under shell subsidiaries for 3 years. Trinity's head snapped toward me. How do you know that? Because I built 2 of those shells, I said. And then I let your team discover them. Lorelei's face went red. You set us up. No, I said. You set yourselves up. I just gave you the rope. Orlando sat down hard. This is insane. I stood. This is justice. Back in the city, Jolie was waiting in my office with 2 lattes and a grin that could cut glass. Congratulations, she said, handing me a coffee. You're officially the most hated woman in Westwood. Only by the ones who matter. She pulled up a laptop and opened a file. The board's already calling emergency meetings. You've got controlling votes through the marital trust and the proxy shares we secured last quarter. Good. Johnny's ready to release the first batch of documents. We're talking offshore accounts, falsified audits, and a neat little trail of campaign donations. I nodded. Start with the campaign money. That'll get the press foaming. She clicked send. Done. I looked out the window at the skyline. They thought I was just another girl with a pretty face and a sob story. She smirked. Now you're the girl with the keys to the kingdom. That night, Orlando showed up at my condo unannounced. He looked like he hadn't slept. His tie was crooked, his eyes bloodshot. I need to talk, he said. I let him in. He stood in the middle of the living room like he didn't know where to start. You planned this, he said finally. The whole time. Yes, you used me. I married you. That's not the same thing. No, I said. It's not. He sat down on the couch, head in his hands. Did you ever love me? I didn't answer right away. He looked up. Did you? I sat across from him. You were kind to me. You made me laugh. But when your mother insulted me, you said nothing. When your sister spread rumors, you stayed quiet. You didn't protect me. You didn't respect me. You just tolerated me. He swallowed hard. I didn't know what to do. That's the problem, I said. You never did. He shook his head. You could have told me. You wouldn't have believed me. Silence. Then he said, I don't even know who you are. I stood. That's because you never asked. He left without another word. The next morning the headlines were worse. Walsh Enterprises under investigation. New trustee leaks internal financial misconduct. Family empire on the brink. Lorelei went on TV to deny everything. Her interview was clipped, defensive, and full of phrases like baseless accusations and vindictive behavior. It only made things worse. The board called a vote. Jolie handed me the proxy forms. You're in, she said. They can't block you anymore. I signed them. Lorelei's empire was crumbling, and I was holding the wrecking ball. The boardroom smelled like stress and old money. 12 men in tailored suits sat around a glossy table, all of them pretending not to panic. I didn't sit. I stood at the head of the table, flipping through a stack of documents while they whispered to each other. Jolie leaned against the wall behind me, arms crossed, watching them like a lioness sizing up a herd. One of the older board members cleared his throat. We weren't informed about this trust clause. I looked up. You were informed when you signed off on the asset merger last fall. Page 22. Footnote 3. Another man scowled. That clause was buried. So was my father, I said. Let's move on. A few of them shifted in their seats. One stared at the table like it might swallow him whole. The documents leaked yesterday, I continued, were just the beginning. There's more. Offshore accounts, phantom vendors, illegal lobbying. If you want to keep your names out of the next headline, I suggest you cooperate. Or what? Someone muttered. Jolie stepped forward. Or we let the state attorney's office go through your emails, one by one. Silence. I placed a single sheet of paper in the center of the table. This is a resolution to remove Lincoln as CEO, effective immediately. I hold 62% of the voting shares. You can either sign now or wait for the press to announce it. Chairs scraped, pens clicked. One by one, they signed. Just like that, the king was out. I found Orlando sitting alone in the garden that afternoon, staring at the koi pond like it had answers. He didn't look up when I approached. He's gone, isn't he? Yes, he nodded slowly. They're saying you planned this for years. I did. He turned to me. And you used me to do it. I used what was available, I said. You included. He laughed once, bitter. You're colder than I thought. No, just clearer. He stood, brushing off his pants. You could have told me. I would have helped. I looked at him. You had chances. Every time your mother humiliated me, every time your sister lied, you said nothing. I was trying to keep the peace. There was no peace, I said. There was only silence. He looked away. Did you ever love me? I didn't answer. He swallowed hard. You weren't my wife. You were just an opening. I nodded. And you weren't my ally. You were just A door. He walked past me without another word. Later that night, Jolie and I sat in her office, surrounded by boxes of files and empty coffee cups. "You okay?" she asked. I shrugged. "Define okay." She handed me a folder. Trinity leaked this to the press. Old emails between Orlando and Lorelei. They talked about the prenup being strategically one-sided. He knew. I took the folder, flipped through it, and closed it again. "I'm not surprised," I said. Jolie leaned forward. "You sure you're not letting this eat you alive?" "I'm fine," I said. "I didn't come here for love. I came for justice." She gave me a look. "You sure you didn't want both?" I didn't answer. The next morning, the estate was in chaos. Reporters camped at the gates. Staff whispered in corners. Lorelei hadn't come out of her room in 2 days. I walked into the study and found Lincoln sitting alone, staring at a decanter of scotch. He looked smaller than I remembered, like someone who'd been deflated. "You win," he said without looking at me. "This wasn't a game," I said. He poured a drink. "You know, I liked your father. He was a good man." "You destroyed him." "I didn't stop her," he said. "That was my mistake." I walked over, pulled a check from my purse and slid it across the desk. "What's this?" he asked. "A bribe," I said. "Just like the one you offered my father before you took everything." He picked up the check. His eyes widened. "This is $10 million. Exactly what you offered him to walk away." He looked at me. "You want me to walk away now?" "No," I said, taking the check back and tearing it in half. "I just wanted you to feel what he felt." I dropped the pieces on the floor and left. By the end of the week, the company was bleeding. Investors were bailing. Clients were panicking. The media had a field day. Walsh dynasty in free fall. New trustee exposes decades of corruption. Family legacy shattered. I stood in the middle of it all, calm, steady, untouchable, but not untouched, because even revenge leaves scars. I was reviewing a stack of financial reports when the front desk buzzed. "There's a woman here. Says her name is Myla." I froze. "Send her up," I said, standing slowly. I hadn't seen my half-sister in over a decade. Not since the funeral. She disappeared after that. No calls, no letters. Just silence. The elevator dinged. The doors opened. And there she was. Same sharp jawline, same stormy eyes. But thinner. Older, like life had chewed her up and spit her out somewhere rough. "Alice," she said. "Mila." She stepped inside, glancing around. "Nice office. Looks expensive." "It is." She gave a dry smile. "Figures." I motioned to the chair across from my desk. "Sit." She did, folding her hands in her lap like she wasn't sure if she was welcome. "You look good," I said. "You look powerful." I raised an eyebrow. "That a compliment?" "Depends who's asking." We stared at each other for a few seconds. Then she sighed. "I saw the news," she said. "The company, the family, what you did." I waited. "I tried to stop them once," she said. "Years ago, after Dad died." My throat tightened, but I kept my face still. "I didn't know that." "I went to a reporter. Told him everything. The takeover, the threats, how they set him up. 2 days later, I got a cease and desist letter. And a visit from one of their lawyers." "What did they say?" "That if I didn't shut up, they'd ruin me. Said I'd end up like Dad. Or worse." I swallowed. "Why didn't you tell me? I thought you were better off not knowing," she said. And honestly, I was ashamed. I ran. I leaned back. You were a kid. We both were. She nodded. But you stayed. You fought. I waited. I watched. I built. Myla looked at me, eyes shining. You did what I couldn't. I stood and walked to the window, staring down at the city. I'm not done. She stood too. Then let me help. I turned. Why now? Because I'm tired of running, she said. And because he was my father too. I nodded slowly. Okay, I have something I need you to do. That night, Jolie and I met Johnny in a parking garage. It was cliché but safe. No cameras, no ears. I've got the final batch, Johnny said, handing over a thumb drive. Emails between Lincoln and the CFO. Clear signs of embezzlement. Falsified audits. It's all there. Jolie plugged it into her laptop, scanned the files, and whistled. This is gold. Johnny looked at me. You sure you want to go nuclear? They went nuclear first, I said. I'm just finishing the war. He nodded. Once this goes public, there's no going back. I know. Okay, he said. I'll send it to the press tomorrow morning. Anonymous drop. Make sure it hits every outlet, I said. I want it everywhere. He glanced at Jolie. You two are terrifying. She grinned. That's why you like us? He laughed, then turned serious. Be careful, Alice. People like them don't go down quietly. I'm counting on it. The next day, I was in my office when Lincoln walked in. No warning, no call. Just walked in like he still owned the place. He looked tired, defeated, but dangerous. I want to make a deal, he said, holding out a check. I took it, looked at the number, 10 million. He waited. I tore it in half and dropped it in the trash. My father never got a refund either. His jaw clenched. You've made your point. No, I said. Not yet. He stepped closer. You think you're better than us? I think I'm smarter. He laughed bitterly. You're just another shark. Don't pretend you're not. I met his eyes. I never pretended. That was your mistake. He turned to leave, then paused. You'll end up alone. I smiled. Good. I don't like company. He walked out. I stood there for a moment, letting the silence settle. Then I picked up the phone. Jolie, I said, release everything. Already done, she said. It's going viral. I looked out the window. Let the world burn. The press conference was a circus. Cameras flashed. Reporters shouted over each other. Security kept the crowd back, but barely. The Walsh name had officially gone from whispered reverence to full-blown scandal. I stood behind the podium at the shareholder meeting, calm in a tailored black suit. Jolie stood off to the side, arms crossed, watching every movement like a hawk. Marla was next to her, holding a folder tight to her chest. Across the room, Lorelei sat stiffly in the front row, wearing a white blazer like it could make her look innocent. Her lipstick was flawless. Her composure was not. Lincoln was nowhere to be seen. He'd resigned the night before. No speech, no statement. Just a quiet exit through the back door. I tapped the mic. Thank you all for being here. The room quieted. I know this week has been eventful, but I want to be clear. This isn't the end of a legacy. It's the correction of one. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. I continued. 4 years this company operated under a system of intimidation, deception, and greed. That ends today. Lorelei stood suddenly. You don't get to rewrite history, Alice. I smiled. I'm not rewriting anything. I'm just reading the part you tried to erase. A reporter shouted, "Is it true you've taken full control of the family trust?" "Yes," I said. "As of this morning, the trust, now renamed the Ward Foundation, holds controlling interest in the company." Lorelei's face went white. Another reporter. "How did that happen?" I held up a document. "Through a clause in the marital prenup, triggered by asset manipulation and public disparagement, both of which were well documented." Lorelei stepped into the aisle, voice rising. "You tricked us. You seduced my son, married into this family, and now you're stealing what we built. You built it on the backs of people like my father," I said. "You destroyed him, and you laughed while you did it." She threw her drink. It hit my shoulder and splashed across the mic. Gasps echoed through the room. Cameras clicked like machine guns. Security moved toward her, but I raised a hand. "Let her stay." She froze, breathing hard. "Let everyone see what this family really looks like when the cameras stop flattering them." Jolie stepped forward and handed me a new mic. I clipped it on and faced the crowd again. "Effective immediately, the Ward Foundation will begin auditing all internal departments. Any executive found complicit in financial misconduct will be referred to authorities." Another reporter. "What about Orlando?" I paused. "He'll be stepping down from his position, indefinitely." Lorelei laughed, bitter and sharp. "He loved you, and you used him." I looked at her. "He loved the version of me that didn't ask questions. That version doesn't exist anymore." I turned to the cameras. "The Walsh legacy was never about family. It was about leverage. Guess who has it now?" Later, in a quiet conference room, Orlando sat across from me. The door was closed. The air was thick with everything we weren't saying. He looked tired. Rumpled suit. Wedding ring still on. "I don't even recognize this version of you," he said. "That's because you never really looked." He slid a folder across the table. Divorce papers. "I didn't want it to end like this," he said. "It ended the moment you let them treat me like I didn't matter." He swallowed. "I thought I was protecting you." "No, you were protecting them." He nodded slowly. "You were never going to stay, were you?" "I didn't come for forever," I said. "I came for justice." He looked down. Did any of it mean anything? I stood. It meant enough to hurt. He didn't follow me when I walked out. Outside, Mila was waiting. "You okay?" she asked. I nodded. "You?" She smiled a little. "Feels weird, seeing them fall apart." "They were never solid to begin with." She handed me a folder. "Final signatures from the board. You're officially in control." I took it. "Thanks." "You did it," she said. "No," I said. "We did." Jolie joined us, holding 2 glasses of champagne. She handed one to me and one to Mila. "To the Ward Foundation," she said. We clinked. "To rebuilding," I added. "To remembering," Mila said. We drank, and just for a moment, I let myself breathe. The empire had fallen, and from the ashes, something better was about to rise. The plaque on the front of the building had been changed that morning. Ward Holdings. Simple. Clean. Heavy with meaning. I stood on the sidewalk, staring up at the glass tower, the same building where my father once walked in with hope and walked out, ruined. Now it was mine. Mila stepped beside me, holding 2 coffees. "You ready?" I took one from her. "I've been ready." She smiled. "You don't look nervous." "I'm not." "Good," she said, "because the board's waiting, and the press is circling like sharks." "Let them," I said, pushing the door open. The lobby was buzzing. Suits, heels, whispers. But the energy had shifted. Less arrogance, more caution. People moved a little faster when they saw me. Nods were sharper, eyes more alert. I liked it. Upstairs, Jolie was already in the conference room, setting up a screen. "Morning, boss," she said. "Morning." She handed me a folder. Final version of the ethics policy. Transparency, whistleblower protections, the whole package. I flipped through it, nodded. "Make it public." "Already scheduled." Mila took a seat at the table, glancing around the room. "Feels different in here." "It is," I said. "We're not running it like a dynasty. We're running it like a business." Jolie smirked. "With morals, wild concept." The board members filed in, quieter than usual. A few still looked unsure. That was fine. They didn't have to like me. They just had to respect what I could do. I stood at the head of the table. Let's begin. The meeting ran 2 hours. We voted on new leadership structures, approved the audit committee, and finalized the budget for the employee wellness program. I watched every face closely. No one objected. No one dared. Afterward, I walked into my office and closed the door. Jolie followed. "You did it," she said. I looked out the window. "There's still more to fix." "Sure," she said, "but the hard part, that's done." I turned to her. "Thank you." She raised an eyebrow. "For what?" "For standing by me. For not letting me forget who I was doing this for." She softened. "You never forgot. You just needed someone to remind you you weren't alone." We hugged, quick, tight, no words needed. Then she left. That night, I stood in front of my father's old photo. It sat on a shelf in my apartment, next to a dusty plaque from his first business award. "I kept my promise," I said. The doorbell rang. I opened it to find Orlando standing there. No suit, no tie, just jeans, a jacket, and that same lost look I'd seen the day the company fell. "Can I come in?" he asked. I stepped aside. He walked in slowly, looking around like he was trying to remember something. "I saw the building," he said. "The name. It's mine now." "I know." He turned to face me. "I didn't come to fight, or ask for anything." "Then why?" "I just wanted to say, I'm sorry, for not seeing you, for not standing up when I should have." I nodded once. "Thank you." He looked down. "You were right. I was weak." "You were loyal to the wrong people." He looked up. "I hope someday you find someone who deserves your loyalty." "I already have," I said. "Me." He smiled, sadly. "Good." We stood there in silence for a moment. Then he said, "Take care, Alice." "You too, Orlando." He left. I closed the door. The gala was packed. Champagne, cameras, high heels, and headlines. The Ward Foundation had officially launched its first community grant program, funding small businesses run by women and people of color, the kind of businesses my father would have believed in. Mila stood by the bar, laughing with a city councilwoman. Jolie was cornered by a group of reporters, holding court like a queen. I made my way through the crowd, shaking hands, smiling for photos. But my mind was somewhere else. Near the back of the room, I saw him. Orlando. He stood alone, watching me. He looked hollow, like someone who'd finally realized what he'd lost. I didn't stop. I walked right past him, head high, heels clicking on marble. Outside, the night air was cool, quiet. I took a deep breath, staring up at the stars. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about memory. about legacy, about making sure no one forgot what they did and what I did to stop it. Revenge doesn't bring back the past, but sometimes it makes sure the future damn well remembers it.